Hello and welcome to the United Community Podcast. We're back with another episode and we've got plenty to talk about tonight. Of course, we're going to talk Manchester United, lack of intensity shown the other night against Wolves. We're going to talk about the forward line, Anthony, Sancho, Garnacho, who should start, and the midfield dilemma, balancing attack and defence. We're also going to talk about Manchester City picking up where they left off from last season and how big of a miss is Kevin De Bruyne going to be, and who's going to fill his boots. Arsenal as well, decent start. Will they be the main challengers to City? But of course, we do see that Timber has got an ACL injury. Will they have to go back into the transfer window? We're going to talk Liverpool. We're going to talk Chelsea. We're going to talk Newcastle as well. As usual, get your thoughts into the comment section below. Let's get right into it. So we've got the main man as usual. Ricey is back with us. Plenty to talk about tonight. How are you keeping, Ricey? All good?
All good, Jack. All good, you?
Good, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Let's jump straight into it. Let's talk Manchester United. Yeah, look, I mean, 3 points on the board after the opening game of the season, but I suppose the main talking points are around the performance more than anything else. Very lackluster performance. First game of the season, you'd be thinking, Monday Night Football under the lights at Old Trafford should have been, a brilliant start. But it wasn't. It was underwhelming, to say the least. And I'll say what I always say to you, first question in, what did you make of it yourself as an outsider looking in at it?
Look, it had hints of last season off it when you kind of didn't play well, still got the result. The main thing is the result. It's a lot better of a start than last season. You started last season with 2 losses. It's a 1-0 home win to one of the so-called weaker sides in the Premier League. I think from the outside in, you'll take it. A lot to work on, but it's a lot better than dropping points already in the season. Albeit if you did get very lucky at the end, I'm sure we'll have a discussion about that. There's probably lots of opinions on that. I was looking at your TikToks, and unless you've kind of reversed your decision, I think that you were kind of talking that you feel it may have been a penalty and that you kind of got away with one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But overall, I just thought, I won't say United didn't have a game plan because they obviously went out with a game plan. It just looked to me as if they were almost all over the shop. Looked very, very Sunday League there at times. Just how that striker Kuna, is it? He came from deep, carried the ball on a couple of occasions, carried it 40, 50 yards. Wasn't even riding tackles because there wasn't even tackles being made. Players running alongside him. He missed a gifted opportunity when he blazed over.
Just move that microphone slightly closer to your mouth.
When he blazed it over at back post. And also, I thought there was another one where he kind of broke through and pulled it wide to the left from the edge of the box.
Yeah, that's right. But I suppose the question I wanted to pose to you is, like, how after... I know it's been a long pre-season, and you can put it down to that if you want. I'd like to get your opinion on it, because even some of the players at Manchester United were talking about the amount of travelling they had to do throughout pre-season. Obviously Oslo, Edinburgh, Dublin, all over America as well. Is there an excuse that United players can put that down to, or is it just maybe first game of the season jitters? What do you...
And look, there is, like, players, even though they're professionals and they're getting paid hundreds of thousands a week, they're still human. They're still going to be tired. I'm not saying that is down to tiredness. It is a bit disappointing for United fans. Like, you have a sold out Old Trafford, Wolves coming to town, you have a home game, Monday night lights. You're kind of hoping for 2-3, maybe 4-0. That's the dream start to the season.
Yeah.
Some players weren't up to scratch. Personally, didn't think Rashford did very well in the game. Like, Casemiro, although tried, was below his standards. I'm not saying they were poor. I'm saying by their high standards. Anthony seems to play the ball backwards a lot. He kind of throws himself around a lot and throws himself to the ground a lot. I thought your best actual attacking performance of the night was nearly Sancho when he came onto the pitch. He kind of looked lively. Again, I don't know if that's the answer, because this would have happened before where he kind of came on and gave that 20-minute cameo, done very well. then he gets the chance from the start the next day and he's whipped after 60 or 70.
Seems to be a
But,
common theme though with United players that they make good appearances off the bench. We seen with Garnacho last season. Anytime he came off the bench, he played really well, and anytime he started, he just kind of coasted through games.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of disappointed with Rashford. Like, you'd be hoping that he'd get off the mark after kind of 30 goals last season. It would have been nice, would have been a great game for him to get off the mark just at home, get that confidence up, because I think Rashford is, although a lot of players are, I think more so than anyone, he's kind of a very confidence player. You see Rashford over the years, when he scores, he can go on runs of scoring 6, 7, 8 games in a row. But then he can also go that amount of games in a row kind of without scoring or contributing. Thought Bruno personally wasn't great the other night either. But look, you got the 1-0 win. Varane stood up, put in the net when counted. 3 points on the board. Clean sheet.
Yeah, happy days. I suppose you mentioned a couple of the names there, and Anthony being the main one. And I've seen, like, throughout pre-season, for example, the likes of Garnacho looks like he's, I suppose, progressed. He looks a lot more mature. Now, look, I do know he didn't have a good game on Monday night against Wolves. Sancho has impressed. With Anthony, he just seems like he's picked up where he left off from last season, and not in a good way. He's a one-trick pony, comes in on his left, and like you said, he goes back and he goes sideways an awful lot. Do you see a scenario where he gets dropped maybe by Eric Ten Hag, given the fact that, we've paid 100 million euro for him?
It was 100 million euro, and he played a lot of football last season. I see, like, in the Premier League last season, he only got 4 goals and 2 assists. He played 25 games, but, like, if you're coming back there, right, he's kind of almost gone under the radar of a 100 million player. He hasn't been banded about as much as Grealish was in his first season. 100 million for Grealish. He's doing nothing. Like, it's almost, he takes his fair bit of flack, but I think it's went under the radar for the 100 million. He has.
I have to disagree with you on that. I think Jack Grealish
maybe you're coming.
No, I think Jack Grealish gets too easy of a pass.
Now, not after his first season. Now. After his first season, he won the league. He done decent, and people are like, sure, he done nothing. He done this and that. Like, now Grealish is like how class he is and all this.
Well, is he though?
I would rate Grealish as world class.
Well, what are his stats like? Well, let me pull up his stats here, because, hold on a minute, because.
But you don't carry someone to win in the Champions League final, to win the treble.
Yeah.
Like, and he played nearly every game. He was a mainstay starter kind of in that Man City team.
Yeah. 5 goals and 11 assists last season for Grealish.
In the league.
In all competitions.
I
mean, that's not, like.
Yeah, it's kind of overridden by the fact that he won a treble, though, He won the Champions League.
Yeah, but I think it's overridden by the fact that, it's old Jack, he loves a bit of a laugh and all that when he wins. I think the English media give him a bit of a pass, whereas they focus on that. Look, it's typical from English media that, they have their favorites, and then, they kind of hone in on other players. I don't think Jack Grealish is worth 100 million euro.
There's very few players out there that are worth 100 million euro, but it's the way things are gone. The fact that Jack Grealish is English also adds that to it. Like, would you say Declan Rice is worth 105 million?
No, I know what you mean.
He paid 80 million for Harry Maguire, and I'm sure you wouldn't have said then that he was worth 80 million. You can't go on about these.
But if you're looking purely on stats last season, Anthony's and Jack Grealish's are basically identical. They're just the opposite. Anthony scored twice as many goals. He has 10, where Grealish has 5, and Grealish has 11 assists, and Anthony has 5. So I know this whole kind of, and I see it all the time, like on your Talk Sports and this and that and the other, this kind of vendetta against Anthony because he has about 6 celebrations every time he scores a goal. Fair enough. And I know he didn't have an amazing season last year, but I'd be saying we should really be giving him a bit of time. At least another season.
Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez. I'm not on about getting rid of him or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's just, even as Man United fans, would want him now to kind of pull up his socks and be like, right, you have 1 season under your belt. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm not on about saying, geez, he should be dropped, he should be this or anything. I don't even like the use of the word dropped, because squads are so big these days. Players can not start next Sunday without being dropped. Horses for courses. They might fancy, the manager might fancy someone else against a certain opposition. It's banded about too easily these days. Oh, he's been dropped because he started 3 games in a row, a certain player, and then he's off the pitch for 1 game and still probably brought on in that match. Oh, he's dropped. It's horses for courses. Very few teams play the same 11 every week, especially a lot of bigger teams. As I seen in the comments there, personally thought Grealish had a good season there last year, but Chris says in the chat he didn't even play in their first game of the season. That's the kind of squad depth that some of these teams have. And I can see there, Scott says as well, come on, lads, he's a good English player in a world-class team, which I do agree with. I just think, like, he's not rubbish, like some people make out. You don't kind of get a treble and being a mainstay in a team with being not a very good player. But look, we're not here to talk about Grealish.
Let me ask you this question, and we'll move on from it then. If Anthony was in Man City's team, would he score more goals and assists? Now, I'm just saying if. I don't think Pep Guardiola.
I don't know. Like, again, I don't like. I think Anthony and Grealish are kind of different players. Also, I don't think Anthony would be in the Man City team.
Yeah.
I know you're saying hypothetically.
He's not a Pep Guardiola type.
No, I don't think so. I know you're saying hypothetically, would he? Like, that's very hard to call.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Let's move it on to the midfield, and I do want to talk about it because, obviously Mason Mount is another player that's going to be under the microscope this season, big time at Manchester United, coming in and taking
Mason
the number 7
Mount
shirt. And
he will be big time under a microscope, under a spotlight. But you have to give him time too. Why is he 24, 25? Like, this lad has won it all so far, and he hasn't done that by being lucky. He's a great player, and he has to be given time, and he will be given time. He played in kind of a 6 role the other day, did he? Was he playing in alongside Casemiro?
That was what I was going to lead on to, is that, like, what I saw from the game on Monday night was Casemiro being isolated on his own an awful lot, and we had Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes finding themselves too far forward together. Now, Casemiro is a great player, and he can cover a lot of space, and he reads the game very well. But there was 5 or 6 times where Wolves broke on us through the middle, and Casemiro was just completely outnumbered because the likes of Fernandes and Mount was forward. So, like, my question is, where do you get the balance there? Do you say to Casemiro, you have to maybe rein in Mason Mount a little bit more and get more defensive, or the fact that now we've got, say, Onana at the back, do you maybe bring Martinez out to give him a hand or cover the space?
Ye bought Mason Mount knowing the kind of player Mason Mount is. Where Mason Mount is currently playing, I say Ten Hag he's currently deploying that as like a stopgap because he's hoping to get in another 6. I've written down here, like Amrabat. You need someone here to try and make. Casemiro needs help in that role that he's doing, because one person will find it very difficult with the attacking ye do to kind of hold that anchor there in the middle.
Yeah.
Casemiro needs help. Amrabat, I think, is the guy to do that if you could get him. He's a workhorse. He's all over the pitch. Now, the main thing I seen of Amrabat, I haven't seen a whole lot of him in club football, was that World Cup. But when he was with Morocco, I was very impressed. Taking it off the keeper, carrying it up to the halfway line, splitting channels, splitting defenses, but also laying off your simple balls. If he could get someone in there like him, I think Mason Mount he has a lot of similar attributes to Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mason Mount is a player to kind of play that role beside Casemiro. And I think it may have showed the other night. He might have been in that. Ten Hag may have said he can roam up the pitch, but you can see then if them players aren't used to that, getting back in that defensive side of things, they can gaping holes there. You seen the other day, like that didn't even really happen last year, what happened to the other day. And I'd say Ten Hag will look back at that match, and what happened in that match probably won't happen again. Not to that extent. Like that Cunha, like he carried the ball like directly up the middle. Yeah. Like directly ran through, carried through, and had plenty of joy with it.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And I think, look, I still think Mason Mount it's going to take him time to find out what Eric Ten Hag wants from him, and you only really get that from match time, and but I do agree with you. I do think we need another defensive style player in there because, I don't want to go through another season of Scott McTominay being the backup to Casemiro. You know what I mean?
No, but
And I know
there's still time. There's still time.
There is, but and you're talking about Amrabat there. Reports are suggesting today that Liverpool are going in for him as well, and he's sick of waiting for United. He agreed personal terms with him at the start of June. So,
I see, just looking at Chris's comment there now, and I do agree with that. I think Mount could play on a right, not even like an absolute out-and-out winger, but more like kind of a right attacking mid, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In kind of the inside channel role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now then you're kind of lacking. You're lacking the width. Then it's almost like, I'm not saying you have 3 10s, but it's also like you're 4-2-3-1, but your 3 up top.
Yeah.
Mightn't be out and out wingers. The 2 wide ones, they're kind of almost like outside 10s, if that makes any sense.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Nearly. Yeah. I know what you mean.
I think that could be his position. He's not going to take the middle off Bruno, but I think him and Bruno have a lot of similarities in that sense. I don't think that role deeper down the pitch is for Mount anyway.
Yeah. I think if you were to ask me on Mount now and what I see him doing, I would see him as the 8. You know what I mean? The kind of box to box where it's not all about defense, but it's not also all about attack as well. You have your Casemiro as your 6, Mount as your 8, and Bruno as your 10. And I mean, look, the one thing we would say here is, and obviously it's a discussion and we're talking about it, but we were asking the same questions after the first 2 games of last season as well that we lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we have to take it all.
Man, United aren't really playing an 8 there, are they? Like if you have, like you're saying, Mount as the 8, I don't really understand that. Like, what tactic do you fit that into?
Well, basically,
like if you're having Casemiro there as your 6, say your pivot, he's your
single pivot in midfield. You know what I mean? Now you do have.
But then if you want Amrabat or someone of his caliber, kind of attributes coming in beside him, he's kind of there to do a similar role.
Yeah, but
to
I don't
Casemiro.
think...
So you have 2 strong midfielders there. So then you can let the other players on the pitch, other 4 players on the pitch, say your striker and 3 other attackers.
Yeah, but
press that bit higher.
Ten Hag is pushing for a single pivot in midfield, the likes of a Rodri with Man City or a Fabinho with Liverpool, and then you had your Jordan Henderson, for example, who was just up and down.
But then you're not playing that 4-2-3-1 tactic then.
No, the 4-2-3-1 tactic, I don't think is going to be the case for United this year.
Yeah, well, if you're looking at changing that, I'm just saying, you have to be going 4-3-3 if you want that.
Yeah.
Then if you're going 4-3-3 and you want that, you're saying you'll have your 2 midfielders, then you'll be actually pushing Mount out as a right winger.
An inside right. If you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, but then the pitch is very narrow. It's very narrow. I know you'll have Rashford he'll be ideally you'd have Rashford out wide left.
Yeah.
Hugging it, coming in on the right foot. I think it'll if this Hodgson comes in and starts scoring goals and you get a CDM, I think and barring any injuries, I think a lot of issues will be resolved and it'll kind of show a truer United.
Yeah.
Like Ten Hag has done well to build to here, but it's still a build in progress.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
there's nothing sealed now.
Go on.
No, there's nothing sealed yet. Even with Hodgson coming in, I know people are saying, "Oh, I seen him there." People like before you were linked to him, I'd say a lot of fans didn't even hear of him. I never heard of him. That's not to say he's not good, because I looked him up since, and he does score some amazing goals. But there is a lot of hope to come with this.
Yeah.
Like, please let him be good. Please let him be good.
We need you so bad.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk just quickly about Rashford before we move on as well, because obviously, he's playing through the middle now on the back of, Rasmus Højlund being injured. there is just a complete and utter contrast from Rashford playing through the middle than playing on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if Rasmus Højlund does come in, and I think Marcus Rashford is going to have to probably get used to it a little bit this season, because Rasmus Højlund is not going to play 50 games next year. And we can't really rely on, Tony Marshall either, because, he's just like a jigsaw when he goes into the box. You know what I mean? So, I mean, what do you do then? If Højlund comes in and Rashford goes out to the left, is Garnacho back to the bench? Is it Rashford? Is it Anthony? Is it Højlund? What does Sancho do as well if he plays? And I know it's a good headache to have.
So if Højlund comes in and plays well,
yeah, and
like
scores
I'd be unless he is having a very bad run of form, I'd be starting Rashford all day, every day.
Yeah,
I would. Like,
yeah. Well, you have to on the back of the season he had.
Yeah, obviously there's going to be rotation throughout the season, but like the majority of the time in your biggest games, Rashford would be one of the first names on the team sheet. Left. I know he does that, fills that gap up front, but he's not the same player at all, as you just stated, when he's up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Casemiro is going to be in every team.
Sorry.
Casemiro is going to be in every team, and just whoever you get in with him, like, it is vital. If you don't get in someone to play alongside Casemiro, I think it's going to be a long time until Christmas.
Yeah, I agree with you. Jock says, totally agree, lads. I think every team knows exactly what Anthony will do, and it's going to leave us exposed down the right a lot this season. Sancho has actually impressed me. Maybe he could shine. Chris says, Bruno would be a better 8 and Mount a better 10. Yeah, well, they're options as well because they're such similar players. Ben says, we have to play our best players in the strongest positions. Scott says, at the end of the day, Ten Hag will be looking to play a 4-3-3. He's attack-minded and he's Dutch. Chris says, Casemiro, Amrabat, Bruno and Mount, Rashford and Garnacho. All right. So that would mean you would be playing 2 kind of defensive midfielders, 2 wide midfielders, and then kind of 2. It's kind of like Ralph Rangnick, nearly 4-2-2-2. Ben says, is it wise to play Rashford in the middle, though, and have him missing in games, or maybe put Sancho up there and let Rashford loose on the left? Well, Sancho did play as a false 9 a couple of times throughout pre-season and did impress as well. So let's see what happens. Right, let's move it on. We'll talk about Manchester City, unfortunately. But look, 3 points on the board for them. Again, no real worries, no concerns. Opening game of the season for them against Burnley, picking up where they left off. They just seem like they haven't even broken a stride from the end of last season to the start of this one.
Yeah, City they look to pick up where they left off. Look, Burnley was kind of a baptism of fire for them. It was nice to get a home game on their way back to the Premier League, or on whatever you call it, their entrance back into the Premier League. But Man City did make very light work of them. It was only 4 minutes in and they scored. I think, like, as much as everybody praises Haaland and how, as much as like he is absolute brilliance, I think Rodri is the absolute catalyst of that team.
Yeah,
Rodri is unbelievable. He had the assist there for the first goal. He scored the third. He's just all over the pitch, makes light work of everything, simple passes, but can then out of nowhere spray a 40 yards into the corner over the top.
I see 300,000 FPL managers brought him into their team for this week.
Like he is that like 6, but he also gets so far forward, but is always back in his position at the same time.
Yeah.
I'd love to have his GPS stats at the end of a match.
I just love
everywhere.
I love the fact that he just tucks his shirt into his shorts. You know what I mean? You don't see many players do that anymore. The old school, tuck in your shirt there and get down to work. I want to talk to you though about obviously Erling Haaland, and you're obviously a centre back yourself and a big strong centre back. How do you stop him? Now I'm not saying that you're ever going to have to deal with someone like Højlund, but you've marked big, fucking awkward,
Jack, to be honest, I I don't even imagine how you could go about stopping him. Like, it's not only his strength, it's his aerial ability. Remember, I was only watching a highlight the other day. He scored a goal where the ball came in over the top and he kind of jumped almost on a spin. The ball was coming over his left shoulder and flicked it with his left foot into the Dortmund net when they played Dortmund last year. Like, and I watched the goal 4 or 5 times. I was like, how did he even do that? The goals he scored the other day, like, he's like a fox in the box with being a lad that can score a 30-yard belter as well.
Yeah.
He's there for all the tap-ins, but he also scores screamers. He's so big. He's so...
His movement is amazing, I have to say.
You know, I wouldn't even say, do you know the way you get a lot of people who are big and awkward? He's not even awkward. He's big and just very good.
Yeah.
Like, it's I know he might go off the boil there for 2 or 3 games and people are like, oh, is he really the robot? People say he is, but I don't think anybody can deny what he is at the minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like,
I know what you mean.
Coming from every rival fan.
I mean, if you look at what did he score? 52, 53 goals last season in a team.
I think he deserves to win the Ballon d'Or, but I think when you're kind of going historically, I don't think he will win it. Like,
why?
Because,
who would be ahead of him, do you reckon?
I don't even know who's ahead of him, but they kind of like generally go at like, you know, you have to win international tournaments or something. I think he'd be fully deserved to win it.
Yeah, well, like
he's after doing a treble
in a treble winning team.
Yeah. And won European Golden Boot, won the Premier League Golden Boot. Did he win Premier League Player of the Year? I know he won the Young Player of the Year.
Well, I don't think they do that until that's the PFA Player of the Year, isn't it?
He won that PFA Player of the Year.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, but did he win? I just seen there on stats the other day that he won Premier League Young Player of the Year. So I can't remember if he won like Player of the Year at the end of last season.
Yeah. He'll win it all. You know what I mean? He really will. But look, not to put a dampener on it, but well, I don't really care. But Kevin De Bruyne goes off with an injury, hamstring injury again for him. And obviously it's been confirmed that he will undergo surgery and it's a minimum of 4 months out after the surgery.
Yeah.
How big of a loss is Kevin De Bruyne going to be to Manchester City? And, you know,
it is a massive...
How will it affect him in terms of retaining their title?
It is a big loss, but over the last few years, Kevin De Bruyne has been pretty injury prone and he's been out from time to time and they've kind of seemed to deal with it fairly well. I can't remember if he was ever out for a period of 4 months. He's 32 at the moment, and I was reading up coming up to Champions League last year. He didn't even know if he was going to make the final. The last 2 games of the season, or the last few weeks, I think he was getting injections and playing through the pain barrier just to get through games. Wanted to just see out that season. And it was kind of almost like as if it was a swan song, as if he was kind of like, I'm finishing out this season. If it's going to be my last or not, I'm getting taped up, strapped up, injected just to get him through this.
Yeah.
He's been unlucky now to do a serious injury at the start of this. He's 32, probably has another 2 years in him. Max, not saying 34 is too much, but just kind of for what City probably want. You know, they probably kind of
such a high
shit him
level
on and bring something through. He's been a great servant and will be a massive loss. But I definitely think City will dive into the transfer market to replace him.
Yeah, they're linked with the West Ham player, aren't they?
Paqueta, but what's interesting, they were actually linked to him before this injury ever even happened.
Right, okay.
I see him there linked to, I actually just seen this online now. I didn't even ever hear the player, Dani Olmo from Red Bull Leipzig. Yeah. He's a Spanish from Catalonia. He scored a hat-trick apparently last weekend versus Bayern Munich in that German Super Cup.
Yeah, but when you look at, say, the players that City have, I suppose, sold in, you know, Gundogan and players like that, and now with De Bruyne kind of in that midfield area, it has to be a big moment for Phil Foden to step in, really, does it? I mean, like, it's a similar kind of, I know he probably plays off the right a little bit more, but anytime that
I think for the next couple of weeks until they make a sign or anything, I think you may see in that 10 role. I know De Bruyne was a bit deeper at the weekend, but in that 10 role, who played there last weekend was Alvarez, and I think he can play that role.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's the answer to their problems, but I think it could be a stopgap for the time being. If I was Man City, I would be going into that market because when you're on top, you want to stay on top.
Yeah.
They have the players, but the reason Man City are so good is because they have the squad depth. Like, you can't pick Man City players in fantasy football.
Yeah, it's just you can't.
You just
trust
don't know
Pep
what
to
they're
pick
going to
him.
come out with. You don't know
Yeah.
who they're going to come out with. And like, most teams have a strongest 11. Man City probably have a strongest 15, 16.
Yeah.
Where like there's definitely 2 or 3 of them centre backs that you can swap out with each other, and it definitely doesn't weaken the team in any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, and then if you're looking at them 3 they play across the top, like if you take out Bernardo Silva or Grealish or some of these and you replace them with each other, like, the team doesn't really get weaker. Obviously it gets weaker if you take out Haaland.
Yeah,
but then that new lad, what's the kid that scored a goal last night?
Palmer,
yeah, like, he looks like
he
another
looks good
player.
in fairness to him. I
Geez,
think
that
he's
was a
after
great
scoring.
goal.
He scored in the Charity Shield final as well, I think. So
That was a great goal last night. I just see here from Party Pooper, he says Danny Olmo is a great player. Can you expand anything on that, Party Pooper? I was just reading up on him earlier on when I seen the name.
yeah,
Never heard of him before.
I'll throw up this comment to see do you agree with it from Scott that Burnley gave them trouble at times. The likes of United, Arsenal, Liverpool, so on could be dangerous against City this season.
Yeah, like, people will. The thing about Pep, why he has City good, is Pep can kind of seem to be ahead of the times, but people then kind of catch on to the way he plays. Like, last season, he kind of came out with that new tactic where he's playing his centre backs across the back 4, but the 2 wide ones can get forward, and then the CDM can drop in. When Stones was playing as the CDM, he can drop in as a centre half, and the 2 wing backs are gone up almost as wingers, and then you're in a back 3.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see more and more teams kind of trying to cop onto this now. But once teams wise up to the way he plays, they will find gaps when they're able to block out passes, block out channels. But it's like, when you get better teams, you even see last night, Sevilla, I watched about 60 minutes of that match, and Sevilla, they caused them problems.
They did.
And they're a decent side, but and City had a strong team out.
They did. I was very surprised because I only flicked it over in the second half. And
Ederson had a great game. He pulled off some saves. And there was, just with that comment you put up there, what was it that Burnley gave him? There was a couple of times there where Sevilla last night were straight through 1-on-1, 2 or 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. And Ederson pulled off. Yeah, Ederson actually pulled off great saves, though, made himself big. You could say poor finishing either because he's through 1-on-1.
But historically, City have never started league season or seasons fast. They tend to finish very strong. So maybe it's for Man City fans, maybe it's a silver lining that you're getting Kevin De Bruyne out for 4 months at the start of the season rather than the back end of the season. But
yeah.
But anyway, look, let's move it on from Man City, and we'll move on to Arsenal. Decent start from Arsenal. Obviously, there was a big injury for Jurrien Timber, done his ACL. It looks like he's going to miss the entirety of the season. What did you? I personally didn't see the game. I only saw the highlights.
Yeah, I only seen highlights there too.
Yeah, but as far as I believe, I read the match reports and stuff. It was kind of an Arsenal performance where they were good for phases, and then they were kind of not so good in other phases.
Yeah, their new signings done fairly well. They gelled in well there. Look, I think an opening day victory you're going to take, as you said the other day, you're going to take. They were slightly more convincing than United were in their first game. And Nketiah scored, and I tell you, Saka scored an absolute worldly goal of the weekend, definitely.
Yeah.
Up there, Jared Bowen scored a very similar goal for West Ham. But they would have liked a clean sheet. Anthony Elanga actually had a great run in.
He did.
From the left and cut a ball across, and Eddie Emi, or whatever his name is, slotted it in. I think Arsenal do look slightly light up top, but Partey filled in there at right full, and they had Timber, I think, at left full. So that's a big backline. That's a kind of backline that you don't have any natural wing backs. I'm presuming Zinchenko was injured when I didn't see him in the lineup. He wasn't on the
Yeah, he
bench
must be
either.
because I actually had him in my fantasy, and so I was
Yeah,
gutted he didn't play.
yeah. But Partey did well at right full. I know he played there on a couple of occasions last season. I don't know if they're filling a void there for now, or if they're kind of looking at him potentially for the season. Ben White had come back into the centre,
Yeah,
and Gabriel was on the bench. He came on then when Timber got injured. But as I said, they paid decent money for Timber. Like, Arsenal have already splashed a good bit of cash. I don't know if there's more there for them to spend, but you would think if they want to push on this season that they have to replace him. They brought him in for a reason, to shore up a defence.
yeah,
I think he can play right full or centre half,
yeah.
and I'm presuming he can play left full as well if they played him there at the weekend. But I think they have to replace him with something. Like, Gabriel is coming back in there now. He'll obviously slot back in for him. Or maybe Zinchenko obviously at left full. But I think if they want cover, I think their squad depth, again, even though they made a few nice additions, I don't think they have the squad depth that the likes of your Man City have. But
It's mad when you just get a couple of injuries in the wrong areas, what it can do to your squad. Like
well,
Gabriel
like,
Jesus getting injured in pre-season.
I don't know what they paid. Did they pay 50 million for Timber? I'm not sure what they
I think
paid.
something around that. I think, yeah,
Yeah, so say they paid in around that. Like, you're after paying that for a lad, and he does his ACL or his cruciate 3 weeks later. Like,
yeah,
that has to put a spanner in the works.
yeah,
Like, he's a lad that you said to your scouts, scout this lad. You said to your owner, this is the lad I want. With us moving forward, and we want to go one step further, challenge for the title this season. I want Declan Rice, I want Kai Havertz, and I want this lad, Timber. He goes,
yeah.
that's what I want to bring us forward. And then, boom, this lad is
And
gone.
United trying to sign him last season, and he turned
Liverpool
out.
previously have been linked to him too, so he's
Yeah,
obviously a very good player.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only reason he didn't move to United last summer was Van Gaal told him that if he didn't play consistently week in, week out, he wouldn't be in the World Cup squad. So he
Yeah,
stayed at Ajax for another season.
yeah.
Other than that, we would have signed him instead of Lisandro Martinez. So swings and roundabouts. Do you still think they'll be the main challengers to City this year?
It's very hard to tell, Jack. Very hard to tell. Like, if we were to say that now, I think it's pure guesswork. Like, I don't think the first day of the season showed anything really.
Yeah,
From any team, bar City. Newcastle kind of put down a bit of a marker there. They had a good win. But other than that, I don't think you learned a whole lot from any teams. Chelsea could, like, if Chelsea got their act together, it's going to be hard for all these players to gel together. And they had another injury, and Kunku is out for, I think, 4 months as well. So he's obviously kind of a big loss to them. But you really don't know what way teams will fare out. Brighton had a good win. Can they bring last year's form into this season?
Right. Well, let's talk Chelsea then. I suppose we'll talk Chelsea and Liverpool while we're on the topic. We'll go with Liverpool first because we're kind of talking about like midfield areas and stuff like that. And obviously Liverpool's midfield has been the main talking point in this transfer window, and they're struggling to get deals done. I mean, me personally, from what I saw from Liverpool on the weekend against Chelsea, is how open they were in the midfield. I think it was so. Now, look, Pochettino is a smart manager. He's going to know that they're weak in that area. But the likes of McAllister and Szoboszlai coming in are not defensive midfielders.
Yeah,
they're
and then on the
desperate for a
other side,
CDM.
of the tree, then you had Gakpo.
Yeah.
Who, to be fair, I thought McAllister done well. I thought Szoboszlai done well as well. McAllister had a few decent balls around, and he was kind of the furthest sitting back. And I don't think that is actually his position.
Yeah.
He's kind of a 10, as far as I've seen and know anyway, kind of creating the chances. But Gakpo then is actually sitting along that tree there as well, and he wasn't getting back as freely as the other two were.
Yeah.
Because he's probably a lot more used to attacking and all. I think that's where gaps open up. Like, Liverpool did look lively in the first half, and when I watched up to half time in the game, I was like impressed, saying this was a good start to a season.
Yeah.
But then the game kind of petered out. The thing that you'll see about Liverpool, and it's kind of the same as last season, and I think teams will cop onto this big thing, is Trent at right full. The gap. He is very good at attacking, as we all know. If I was Liverpool now, I'd put him in that midfield role.
Yeah. What part of the midfield role? Would you be putting him as an 8, a 10? Because he can't play a 6. I mean, if he's not able to defend in the back line, how is he going to defend in the number 6 role?
Yeah, well, it's different kind of defending. I know what you mean. Yeah. But I'd have him up there. Look, he seems to kind of create a lot of chances as well. You could have him in an 8. I don't know what way he's like for getting up and down the pitch. But I think the way they're playing him now as kind of like a right full semi midfielder.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Roam into midfield there, but you're right full. When Liverpool lose that possession. Yeah, when Liverpool lose that possession, there's a diag or a ball down the line constantly into right full. Constantly, there's acres of space there. That'll drag your whole defensive line across to that side then. And allow for it's just going to be a lot harder to keep shape when there's crosses or anything coming into the box if they're all rushing over to cover that side.
Yeah.
No, he's going. He is. I think he's great.
Yeah, but there's only and look, I agree with what you're saying, but there's only so much or so many times we can say Trent is great going forward, but he's a fucking fullback at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Know.
Either move him out of the position or teach him how to defend. You know what I mean? And I think it's going to be the first one.
Well, you see, the thing about which is difficult for him too is because he's getting given a license to go forward like that. It's not always his fault either.
Yeah.
You can't just be like Trent this, Trent he's been told he's not wandering up that pitch, but Klopp shouting in, don't leave your own half. Yeah. He's been told to do that. He has the potential to be treading through these balls, to be playing balls. So it's just something that you think they may have ironed out a bit better in pre-season. But again, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes there. They haven't made a whole lot of side. And I see they signed this Endo now. It probably comes as a shock to a lot of people. Again, he's not a player I've ever heard of. He played with Stuttgart. Looked him up earlier on. Seems to be good reports on him. Is he? Yeah. There seems to be very good reports coming from online, and that's not even just from Liverpool fans. Kind of when you're looking up and there's Stuttgart fans and all saying you're after getting a gem of a player. I know people say, he's 30 or 31, but sure, they need something for now. They're after getting rid of so many midfielders. They need something for now, not something like, he'll be good in 3 years.
Yeah, well, he's 30 years of age, so it's a gamble. You know what I mean?
It is, but it's only a 15 million gamble,
Yeah,
they're not
that's true.
I don't think they've... what are they going to do? Just keep that midfield they have?
No, they can't.
They have to try something.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I think nearly more so than any manager, I think Liverpool in Klopp they should trust,
Yeah, well, a lot of Liverpool fans that I've been, seeing online and some of the Liverpool fan channels and stuff are kind of nearly sounded like Man United fans have been over the last 15 years in terms of ownership and wanting them gone and, either back the manager or get out and sell the club and this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And we're well used to that at this stage. Do you see a scenario where maybe Klopp walks or they change ownership? They are going to have to get back into the top 4 at minimum this season.
Yeah, well, that'll be their minimum aim anyway, to try and get into that top 4. But I don't think they'd ever sack Klopp.
No,
I don't think it would ever come to that. I'd say his hands are relatively tied.
Yeah, well,
if he had an abundance of money there, he'd be buying the players. There's obviously something there to do with funding and all. I don't think Klopp is sitting there going, nah, we have 100 million in the bank. We don't want to spend that. The right player hasn't come along yet.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's the kind of person to come out and give out about the board.
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one as well because, he has spent an awful lot of money. You know what I mean? He spent upwards of 800 million, I think. But obviously the net spend has been good because they sell players for decent money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but when is that 800 million since he came in?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's absolutely revolutionized Liverpool and won
Oh,
every
yeah.
trophy he could.
But he hasn't
Some people
retained.
like United have spent the same money.
He hasn't retained a single trophy.
No, but United have spent the same money in the same time, if not probably more.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, but see, our net spend is way worse because we're crap at selling players. You know what I mean?
Like when Klopp came in, the team he had to deal with, I think Klopp is the kind of person they could build a statue for him outside it.
Oh, they probably will, sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do. You know what I mean?
Look, it's going to be a tough one. It could be a long season for a few teams this year.
Yeah,
Chelsea teams need to get in a few signings. Now, you're talking about a team that don't need to get in any more signings.
Yeah, one extreme to the other. Jeez. How are they going to get away with this financial fair play? Is there?
I listened on TalkSport the other day, and what's the former Palace owner?
Yeah, Simon Jordan. I heard the same.
Simon Jordan. He kind of explained and broke it down. He said what they're doing is essentially genius.
Yeah.
Because I think I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was explaining it to me. I think that thing is gone now, where you can sign everybody on the 8-year contracts and space it out over the 8 years. Is that not gone yet?
No, it's not, but they're trying to get rid of it.
So the way he broke it down is Simon Jordan said something along the lines of over the 8 years. So you sign a player for 100 million. They're breaking that down over 8 years. So it's 12.5 million a year that you're essentially paying for that player. Yeah. And then you come along and they sold a player this year. Who did Chelsea sell for big money this year?
They probably lead their goalkeeper to Saudi Arabia. Mendy, was it?
For what, 50 million? No,
I think something like that.
So they sell him for 50 million, say. Departures. Oh, should I sold Kai Havertz there for 60 million to Arsenal?
Yeah.
Sell him for 60 million, and you're after buying a player for 80 million, but over 8 years. So that's 10 million a year, say, and you sold him for 60 million. So of your finances for this year, you're up 50 million now.
Yeah.
Even though you signed a player for 80 and sold one for 60.
Yeah. Because Mason Mount. You forgot about Mason Mount.
Yeah, but that's why they had so much this year. That's what Simon Jordan was going on saying. This summer, Chelsea are technically plus 200 million.
Yeah, but
even though they signed all these players,
they've spent 800 plus million in the last 18 months. You know what I mean? No, but I do know what you're saying there, because basically what Simon Jordan was saying is that Chelsea are taking all of the risk, because if these players don't pay off and they don't sell players for decent money in the next 3-4 years, then it will come back to bite them in the arse. They have to be.
But it is difficult to see Chelsea not doing good things. Maybe not immediately, but they're signing some very, very good players.
Yeah.
Do you watch that? I know it's only one game, but like he showed glimpses last year. That Enzo Fernandez in that game the other night looked unbelievable.
Unreal. He was man of the match. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Sure, Liverpool wanted Enzo and they got Endo.
Yeah.
So there you go.
They had
But I think in another 2 or 3 seasons, Chelsea will be the team to beat, because they're signing players that are 21.
They're signing players. They're not signing players for right now. They're signing players that will play right now. But all the players they're signing are 20, 21, 22, 23.
Yeah, Caicedo, another one. Lavia.
These are young players. Even that lad that scored the goal the other day.
I think they've triggered for Crystal Palace, is it?
That Jackson as well that was up front from him. He actually looked all right. He was a live wire anyway.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because, I think top 4, given the money that they're spending, I think top 4 is going to have to be a minimum for them. You know what I mean? If not this season,
top 4,
next season.
Top 4 is big for a lot of teams this year. Like I know last week we said that Newcastle may struggle. Like they show no signs of struggling that first day of the season. Like Aston Villa, they did very well against Aston Villa.
Let's talk about it here, because it's the final. It's the final topic we have.
Isaac up top.
Very
good.
Do you think top 4 will?
I don't know. I think, as I said there, when you were asking for predictions, or just a few minutes ago when we were talking, like it's very, very difficult to base off the first game of the season.
Yeah,
I think even after 5 games, it's hard to base. But I think after 5 games, you will have a decent idea, of where teams are kind of going. Like, but last year after 5 games, United had lost their first 2, and they kind of finished well.
Yeah.
But I think Newcastle, it'll really start to tell when they kind of get knocking around the Champions League, or say
2 games a week.
I know you can't rule it, like I know you can't just say, but like Isaac, say he picked up an injury. You're kind of like, geez, their main striker's gone then. Tonali had an excellent debut the other day.
He looks. I said it before he signed, he was going to be a cracking signing.
Yeah, but he looks like a player. He has a lot of want in him. He wants to win that ball. He wants to get forward. He's aggressive. He's an aggressive man. He's an aggressive man. I was very impressed with him. He had a lovely assist there too.
So tell me then, because you said it was it last season's podcast or the last week's podcast, Eddie Howe, you said you think he might not be the man to take Newcastle to the next level.
I just think when you look over teams in the past and they kind of bring in this now, he could prove me wrong, and I wouldn't mind at all if he did, because it'd be great to see someone that kind of worked their whole way up.
Yeah.
And kind of got this opportunity. Like, the last thing I want to see at Newcastle is, in a year's time, someone like Ancelotti coming in there.
Yeah, and winning massive 2 trophies and leaving.
Yeah, like the project they have now is great. I think it'd be nearly a better season than last season if they can get Champions League. Even if that's all they get. If they can just get Champions League again this season.
Yeah.
I think they'll have had a better season than last season.
Does it, obviously you're a Sunderland fan, so does it kill you to see Newcastle doing well, or do you care?
No, like, yeah, you'd obviously love your team to be like that and they're their biggest rivals, but no, it's not.
Well, what do you make of Big Ange, first game 2-2 against Brentford?
Yeah, look, I'm still going to put out there and say
every week over this Ange Postecoglou, he's going to do big things. You said,
yeah, but now, there's a big thorn in the side. Like, Harry Kane is gone, but I think it's the best thing that could have happened to him, because Harry Kane was going to go next season regardless.
Yeah.
Like, regardless, he wasn't going to sign a new contract. So it was either stay for 1 more year and then leave on a free next year.
Yeah.
So what has Postecoglou got to benefit from that? I'll keep Harry Kane for the year. We come 5th in the league. Then I lose Harry Kane next year. Suddenly a few bad results next year without Harry Kane. And they're like, gone. Yeah, they're like, but now he's like, if he finishes 6th in the league this year, they're like, sure, give him time. He's after losing Harry Kane, our best player over the last 10 years.
Yeah. Do you think, give me your prediction for United and Spurs on the weekend? Obviously, United with a lackluster performance against Wolves and going away to Spurs. I think Spurs are going to struggle for goals this season.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's so hard. Is Richarlison injured at the minute?
Well, I think he played the other day.
Did he? I thought I read somewhere that Richarlison was injured at the minute. They have to buy a striker anyway. They have to get a striker in. Like,
have they bought a young lad from... Oh, God, I can't think. Let me just have a quick look here.
They have to get a striker in anyway.
Yeah, I think they have bought a young striker from... Let me see. Valise? Am I right? Am I saying that right?
Is he the goalie? No. What's the goalie's name?
Oh no, he's only 19. Let me just have a quick check. Transfers. Oh no, he signed from Rosario. Yeah, he did. He only signed this year. He's a striker, but he's only 19. You wouldn't be expecting him to be doing much this season.
No, I think they have to get in. I think they have to get a striker in anyway.
Yeah.
Like Richarlison's there, but I don't know how many goals he'll get this season. Like Maddison was a good signing. Maddison had 2 assists this weekend too.
Yeah.
Maddison's after being made vice captain as well.
Is he?
Apparently, yeah. Postecoglou might have put in 2 vice captains, him and Romero, and club captain his son.
His
I
son,
think
yeah.
Eric Deer's meant to be very put out by it.
Is he? Eric Dyer, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sure, his days are numbered. Did he play on the weekend?
No, and I think his days are numbered because Postecoglou he tries to play a nice brand of football that I think Dyer will be too slow for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm down there, Ben Alloch, Martial, Lukaku, no way, Lukaku. I don't think any of them.
I did
will
hear somebody
Spurs.
say today that United and I think it was Spurs was mentioned as well, should be looking at Lukaku on a 1-year loan deal.
No way.
Nah, well, I wouldn't be
I
for
wouldn't
that
anyway.
anyway. Right, finally,
Chris is giving Anja a lot of stick this season, isn't he?
Ange's going to get shown.
And I see a few more he thrown in there up earlier on.
So tell me, how did the fantasy football go for you week 1?
Fancy went all right, 76 points.
Not bad.
So
not
I think
bad.
it's kind of average.
Yeah.
What do you get?
67. What let me down, obviously, was John Stones.
John Stones didn't play as well, but what's it called came on? Botman came on with 5 points.
That was a great show. What did he get you? 5 points, I think.
5. They conceded, but he must. Did he have an assist for one of the goals? Stretched out that leg.
I think he did. I had Zinchenko also on my backline that didn't play either, so that let me down big time.
Here, before we go, we never even spoke about it. Penalty, no penalty, and what do you make of your goalie?
I love him, and yes, it was a penalty. Stonewall.
What does Chris think there?
The majority, I suppose, the feedback I've been getting off United fans, and we were doing the game live, majority of people did think it was a penalty. But I love him. I mean, we would have lost that game probably 4-0 if it wasn't for him.
He did play well, but what was he doing? He's coming out like
he just came out
Superman.
like a bat out of hell by, so he did. But I love that. I love a goalkeeper coming out and cleaning house. You know what I mean? Would you have ever seen De Gea coming out and doing that? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Now, I loved De Gea, and he had his brilliant attributes, and for a while he was, the best goalkeeper in the world at one stage. But I'm delighted with it. I think
Wan-Bissaka has done some turnaround too.
He has, and he's on course for a new contract as well. I think once the transfer window
that's some turnaround, isn't it?
Well, when you got a good coach teaching you how to play the game, it can make a big difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, Luke Shaw was hit and miss before Ten Hag came in. Rashford was a shell of himself. Ten Hag is after turning. Even I go with the likes of Fred. I thought he improved Fred an awful lot last season, these types of players. So, I mean, you can have managers all you want. They have to be able to improve the players. And I think that was part of Ten Hag's job description. I would say, he was told, look, we'll back you with money, but you're going to have to improve some of the players that are already there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, Ricey, appreciate it.
No problem,
hopefully we'll see you again next week. Hopefully United will have 3 more points on the board. Good old Angel be in the
right.
mud.
What's your prediction before you go?
I'm gonna go with. I've done my match preview video. It's up on YouTube for anybody who wants to watch it as well. By the way, I went with a 1-0 win to United. I think both teams are struggling to score goals, and I think for that reason, I think it'll be a very tight game. But I think United might just pip it.
1-1. Madison.
You're gonna go 1-1. Madison set piece.
Free kick.
There we go, man. You're a scumbag. Right, Ricey. Appreciate it, man. We'll leave it there, guys. Everybody else, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to, please do give us a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube live here right now, please like and subscribe. We do appreciate it. We're on the road to 4,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Take it easy.